Today's topic is VAT, and we're going to be looking at the reverse charge for supplies of building and construction services. This is something new and it's coming into effect from the 1st of March 2021. So we're going to look at what the reverse charge means, what the reason behind it is, and then we're going to take a look at how it actually applies using Xero. If you're a subcontractor and you're supplying construction services to a contractor who's VAT registered, it means from the 1st of March 2021 you will no longer apply VAT to your sales invoice. Instead, when the contractor receives your sales invoice, entering it as a purchase invoice in their system, they will use the reverse charge rules. According to HMRC, the scheme has been set up to combat fraud. So you've got Donald the dodgy decorator who will issue a sales invoice including VAT, but there are occasions when that VAT is not handed over to HMRC. So under the new regulations, Donald the decorator will no longer be adding VAT to his sales invoice. Instead, the contractor that he's working for will deal with the VAT on his behalf. In the description below, I'm going to put some links to the HMRC website where you can see the full details of the scheme and when it applies. But generally speaking, the scheme will apply when you answer yes to the following questions. Are any of the supplies you're making within the scope of CIS, the Construction Industry Scheme? Is the supply at standard or reduced rate VAT, i.e. 20% or 5%? Is your customer VAT registered? And are you sure that your customer is not what's classed as an end user? If the answer to these questions is yes, then the reverse charge will apply. Now we're going to take a look at how the reverse charge applies in practice. We're going to head into Xero and we're going to look at Bertie the builder supplying services to Cheery Construction. So we're going to look at Bertie the builder, a subcontractor, issuing a sales invoice following the rules. And then we're going to look at Cheery Construction receiving a purchase invoice from Bertie, again following the reverse charge rules. Let's head into Xero and I'll show you how it all works. So Bertie Builder is in the Construction Industry Scheme, but we just want to check that. So we're going to go to Accounting and we're going to go to Advanced. We're going to go over to the right hand side and we're going to choose Financial Settings. And I'm just showing you what's already set up. So we get to this Construction Industry Scheme, the CIS section, and we can see that it's already been ticked that Bertie is a registered subcontractor. His unique tax reference is UTR, the 10-digit code is already input, and the deduction rate is a standard rate of 20%. Now there's no surprise that that's filled in already because we wouldn't be applying the new rules, the reverse charges, if we weren't already using the CIS, the Construction Industry Scheme. Okay, there's one other thing we need to do before we can use the new reverse charge rules. We need to set up the VAT rates. So we're going to go to Accounting, we're going to go back to Advanced, over to the right hand side again, and this time we're going to choose Tax Rates. In the Tax Rates section, and all that we need to do is click on this blue to add the domestic reverse charge tax rates to our Xero account. So we select that. And now when we scroll down on this report, we can see that we have 4 new codes. We have a cost code for 20% VAT, an income code for 20% VAT, and likewise if we're using reduced rate VAT, again we have a cost code at 5% and an income code at 5%. So we have 4 new codes set up in Xero to cope with the domestic reverse charge. So we're back in the dashboard. Let's look at creating a sales invoice. So we go to the plus and we're just going to select sales invoice. We're dealing with a construction company, Cheery Construction, and because the new rules don't come in until March, I'm going to fast forward to the future and I'm going to choose the first day of March. And then I'm going to put my description, £200, and then I need to choose the sales code because it's CIS, So it's a CIS labour code. So for the VAT rate, I'm going to click on the drop down and I'm going to change it from the standard 20% VAT on income. And I'm now going to choose the domestic reverse charge. It's 20% VAT for the work that Bertie's done, so that's the correct one to select. So let's go to the bottom of our invoice and see what Xero's done. The subtotal for the invoice is £200. There's now no VAT on the invoice because the reverse charge is going to be dealt with by Cheery Construction. So the total invoice is £200, but then as before, there's no change. The CIS deduction is going to be 20% of the invoice, so the amount that will be paid to Bertie at the end of the day will be the £160. Happy with that, I'm going to approve the sales invoice. Another thing we can do, and it always makes sense to do this, is to go to our invoices, pick up the invoice that we just created, and actually have a look at it so we can see what the invoice looks like. So we'll choose print PDF and we'll just look at our invoice on the screen. We can see how Xero creates these invoices. We don't have details in for Cheery Construction, obviously that's something that we would deal with, but here's our invoice from Bertie, dated the 1st of March, and this is what it looks like. I'm going to say it looks a bit scrappy. I don't like all this information. And here it says domestic reverse charge at 20% VAT on income. There's a lot in there, but it complies with the regulations, so I'm probably just going to leave it. So what do we need to do? We need to state on the invoice that the reverse charge applies. And Xero has added this narrative here. Reverse charge applies to items marked with the domestic reverse charge. So it says domestic reverse charge here. And it says that it's 20%. So when Cheery receive this sales invoice, they will know that they need to account for the VAT. So that is what the sales invoice looks like when we're using the new rules for domestic reverse charge. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what happens on the VAT return. It's always important to know what's going on behind the scenes. Accounting and then the VAT return. And this is where I'm sneaky. I quite often will do this. I'm only going to choose the 1st of March. Start date 1st of March, end date 1st of March, and I'm going to create my VAT return. So clearly I'm not creating a real VAT return, I'm just looking at what the implications are for this sales invoice. So let's look at the VAT boxes, and we can see that there's very little there until we get to box 6. So box 6 is the total value of our sales, and our £200 is sitting there. So there's nothing in the VAT boxes, there's no VAT due, but we have declared the sale of £200. If we went into transactions by VAT box, it's the same information here, but here we see what it's made up of. So we can see the total is made up of the one transaction, which is our sales invoice to Cheery Construction, and we've recorded on our VAT return a sale of £200, but there's no VAT due. Okay, we're now in the Xero account for Cheery Construction, and we have a purchase invoice to input, and we're going to follow the new domestic reverse charge rules. But we need to do a few things first. We're going to go to accounting, we're going to choose advanced, and we're going to head over to the financial settings. And what we're looking for here is Cheery are purchasing through the CIS, the Construction Industry Scheme. So we expect the box to be ticked here saying that they're a registered contractor. We've got a unique taxpayer reference as before, but then we've got two other pieces of information because Cheery are making PAYE payments. So we've got an accounts office reference and a PAYE reference. And then as before, we've just got that the standard deduction is going to apply. And that's what we would expect because we're using CIS already. The other thing we're going to check, back to accounting, advanced again, and this time to the tax rates. And we know that in Xero we need to enable the domestic reverse charge rates. There's a blue box here if that hasn't already been done, but in this instance it has been. So again, we've got 4 new lines. We need to do one more thing. We're going to go to our contacts and we're going to find Bertie. Here's Bertie. I'm going to select him. I'm going to choose edit, And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down till I get to the financial section, and there's this box here that we need to tick. We need to enable deductions for Bertie. So because he's a CIS subcontractor, we need to say that the rate is 20%. And then we also need to fill in that he's a sole trader. We'd fill in his national insurance number, his UTR, verification number, and then save. We're then going to go and find our purchase invoice. So we're going to the file section, and if we look at the invoice, here's our invoice from Bertie to Cheery Construction. That's what we're now going to input in Xero. So we select it, we're going to say add to new, and we're going to choose bill. The information is on the left, so it's quite easy to fill it in Xero. We'll fill in our description. Quantity is 1, it's 200. And then the account we're going to use, if we search for CIS, we're going to select CIS labour expense. Then we get to the tax rate, which is the VAT rate. We need to select the drop down here, and we need to change this because we need to select the domestic reverse charge. The subtotal is £200. There's no VAT on that invoice, which is clear, and we know that. And then it also says there's going to be a CIS deduction of 20% related to this invoice, which is £40. Again, we know this, the amount that Cheery will be paying Bertie is £160. Once we're finished, we just select approve. Now this is what I like to do. I like to take you behind the scenes so that you understand what's going on with that transaction. So let's go to accounting and let's go to the VAT return. I'm going to choose the 1st of March only, and I'm going to create. So clearly I'm not creating a real VAT return, I'm just looking at what's going to happen on the VAT return with that transaction that I've entered. Box 1 is the VAT due on sales, so it's reverse charge, so we're accounting for the sale on behalf of Bertie. That's why the £40 is appearing in box 1. Then when we get to box 4, the VAT to be reclaimed, and the same £40 is there, so it's an in and an out, cancelling each other out, which has nil effect. And then it's no surprise when we get to box 7, which is our purchases, we've got £200 shown there. If we go to the transactions by VAT box, there's the same information, but this time there's the breakdown. There's only the one transaction, but if you had more than one, you can go here and see what your figures on your VAT return are made up of. So again, back on box 1, we have £40, the VAT due, coming through from invoice 49. Box 4, we have the same £40 from the same invoice. And box 7, we have the value of the purchase, £200. So I'm going to recap on the VAT return. So we have output VAT of £40, we have input VAT of £40, and we have a purchase valued at £200 for that transaction. Purchase invoice from Bertie to Cheery Construction. So a quick summary of what we've looked at in Xero. We've started off with Bertie the builder issuing a sales invoice. We checked that he's already set up for CIS, and we applied the new reverse charge rules when he invoiced Cheery Construction. We then went to Cheery Construction and we looked at Cheery Construction inputting that purchase invoice, that bill from Bertie. Again, following the same new rules, the reverse charge. And in both cases, we looked at the implications, what happened on the VAT return when we input these transactions. If you like the video, please let me know that you like it. Why don't you subscribe to the channel, press the bell so you get notified when new videos are uploaded on a regular basis. If you've got any questions, any comments, please add them below and I'll do my best to respond. But until next time, happy Xeroing!